Hi guys, Louis here and welcome back to Acorn Hill. In today's video, I wanted to show you a planting project that I did, putting together the succulents that we have that have been languishing in small little pots. I wanted to just show you our planting project. In fact, here's a preview of what it looks like. Different succulents. There's about 9 succulents in this dish. And it's an upcycled bowl that we have. There's been a lot of cracks in this bowl. It was a gift to us. It had some cracks on it, and what I did was just bore holes right underneath it and turned it into a pot instead of throwing it away. So for today's video, I wanted to show you how I did the planting, describing every succulent in this arrangement. It turned out to be a pretty cool mini landscape, how I went about doing the project. Also, wanted to thank those who have graciously subscribed in the last couple of days. I've been inviting friends, making them aware of the channel, and I do appreciate your support. There's a lot more coming, a lot more content, and I'm excited to share them all to you in the coming days. But for now, enjoy the video, and thanks again for being a part of Acorn Hill. Alright guys, we have a nice group shot of 9 individual, very unique succulents that I wanted to talk to you about and create a nice indoor scape for all of them. Now, as you can see, these are pretty healthy. They are all green in their color palette. Very interesting textures on them. Monochromatic green tone. Each succulent is very individual in that each one has good coloration, good patterns on them. The textures are very, very unique and eye-catching. We just want to put them all in one big arrangement. Nice tablescape. Now, in the previous segment of this video, I told you some basic requirements for growing, watering, and preventing them from dying out. So that would be interesting for all of us to learn. All right, so first up, we'll be describing to you, show you what this one, and this is Haworthia Twisterlimifolia. I'll throw the name up on the screen, that way you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's called a twister for very obvious reasons, because of the pattern of the leaves that grow out from a single trunk. One of the best specimens of Haworthia within our collection. And as you can see, the leaves are dark green, very leathery, and it's got that pattern. There we go. It's got that nice, ridgy, scaly patterning coming from the base all the way up to the tip. Now, these are as sharp as thorns, so we're always careful that we don't prick ourselves when we're trying to handle them. They like to get a lot of water in the beginning, let it all dry out, and just continue on with that cycle. We have our watering schedule already on our iPhone, so it gives us a good reminder whenever we're ready to start squirting some water coming from a big syringe, and you just squirt it right down there, just to make sure that it's thoroughly watered at the base. Very architecturally interesting to look at. It will just grow on a circular twisting pattern. Very low maintenance plant, and we'll use this as one of the anchor plants within the arrangement that we will do when I plant them in that planter. Now, the next two are succulents, this one and that one right there. They're also very special in the fact that they almost have the same shape for their leaves. They both come from South Africa. The second one, right next to the twister, that's pretty prehistoric, in my opinion. And again, texture-wise, color-wise, growth pattern and growth habit-wise, one of the more interesting, good specimens to have for anyone's collection. This is lawyer's tongue or ox tongue. Gasteria Baylissiana. Let me say that again. Gasteria Baylissiana. And I will put the name on the screen so everybody could have a good reference on it. They are small stemless succulents that could grow up to 4 inches tall. Be right about that tall. They have leaves that grow in two vertical pattern on opposite sides. They're embedded right in the middle and all the way down deep, but strong enough that it makes for these leaves to grow. Good uniform pattern. Leaves are tongue-shaped, very obvious, swollen, rough, and covered with all these weird white tubercles. And hopefully you can see the pimple-like structures that in our world, in the clinical world, they really look like lesions. But they're right down there, uniformly patterned. I like that it's variegated too. You can see the dark green coloration interspersed with that light kind of a mossy lichen green. And again, they belong in the Haworthia families. This is Haworthia, lawyer's tongue, ox tongue, Gasteria, Baylissiana. Right. Now the next succulent is this. Another prehistoric looking succulent. Grayish, greenish, got that blue haze on it for its coloration. Again, there's that stem. See, now you can see the stem in the center. When I described all the previous Haworthias as having that single stem, well, this is a fine example of it because now we can see the stem at the center. But these are called the airplane plant or a propeller plant. Very self-explanatory because, you know, the shape of it, they do look like propellers or the wings of an airplane. It's Crassula perfoliata. Very attractive, and it's especially interesting when in bloom. Now this is pretty new and we haven't had it to bloom yet. Also, they describe the shape, not the form of the leaf, but it kind of is like a sickle, almost like a hook. With a sharp side, the sickle used for farming to gather wheat and gather some crops. But it can grow up to 4 inches long. So from there all the way out, that could be 4 inches long and one leaf on top or on side of the other. Then you form a nice clump with one singular succulent. They are arranged in overlapping pairs along the stem. And I showed you where the stem is earlier, which is right over there. Easy to grow. Right. Now the next plant up along the roster here, this will be a mouthful, so I got to make sure I say it right. This one right here. It is Haworthia Gasteria Fuscopunctata. Haworthia Gasteria Fuscopunctata. It's from South Africa as well. They require bright light and obviously not direct sun because it's a succulent, and this happens to be pretty perfect for the indoor gardener. The soil just requires a cactus mix. Let's describe the color. Now this is a dark green succulent. Look at all the spotting. They are not raised lesion-like pattern compared to the ox tongue, but it is flat. It just has those almost like light moles speckled all along and all around that beautiful shape. Small tongue depressors that are growing from several different stems. These have multiplied. They have grown, and you can see little pups that they have grown a lot. So I got one over here, another separate plant right there, another one here, there as well. If you look at it from the top, you can see what I mean. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we got these baby ones, 6, 7, 8, and all the way down deep inside, we got 9 plants. It's now the optimum time to plant them and put them in and combine them into one big arrangement. Next would be this one, another South African native called Crassula, Arborescence, Undulatifolia. Undulatifolia, I'm assuming it's an undulating type because it's kind of wavy, the leaves. So it's an undulating type of Crassula. And the one that we got happened to have 4 stems. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is also called the ripple jade. So if you have a jade plant, this is very much related to a jade plant. But the only difference is the regular jade plant that we see, they usually are the stubby, fat, rounded, rotund shaped leaves, but these are the ones that ripple. Like that one's a good example of it. And this one too, because you can see the rippling of the leaves. Now, it's an undulated form, and they vary in their ripples. So this is a small one, and I've seen bigger ones where the rippling just goes like crazy, and it gives the entire plant big texture and big form when it's overgrown. So another eye-catching specimen that we have. It's unlike the typical arborescence. The subspecies and the leaves are more elliptical in tongue shape. They usually are bluish gray. These are thinner compared to the regular one that we're used to, the regular jade plant. Of course, with the thinner leaf, lesser flesh. But this is a perfect example of one that has that reddish, has that reddish, purplish edge right alongside it. So this is Crassula arborescens Undulatifolia, right there. Most of them are Haworthias, and a classic, typical type of Haworthia is this type of Haworthia. Check that out. It's a really good specimen, just like that. It's very architectural. You can really see the structure of it. This is Haworthia Attenuata, fine dotted Haworthia. Like any Haworthia, they grow from the center, again from a single stem, but they have that rosette clustered in inward concave shape that you can see. They come in many different types of colors and patterns, but this, as the name suggests, is a fine dotted Haworthia. Tubercles, those little lesions, those white dots that you see, they vary from fine dots to sometimes you can see the usual confluent lines for any plant shape like this. But doesn't that look like, like a pine cone? I can turn it upside down because the dirt will come out. But the scales that they form is very reminiscent of either a pineapple, a pine cone, or anything like that. What an amazing shape for a plant, a tiny plant like this. This plant, when it's totally dried, causes the tips to dry off as well. And so these little tips that we see that are browning off, for me, that is not a good sign. And we want to make sure that when we plant this along a plant that requires a little bit extra watering than the rest. It's good for indoors. Also good for when you have them in clusters, but I just happen to have one, and that's what we'll plant. Moving right along. Oops, sorry, my hand is in the way. There we go. This is Sedum Clavatum. It's a form of sedum. It has rounded, bluish, greenish leaves that grow to form a rosette pattern. That rounded, uniform pattern is what in the gardening world they call that pattern rosettes. And it's good for ground cover if you put it out in the landscape, and it grows really well that way. As you can see, if this were growing in the landscape, you can see that branches will form coming from one principal stem right there, and you get growths that come from all sides of that main stem. And slowly they multiply, and they produce well-textured ground cover. They require full sun. Sometimes they grow in partial shade. In our case, because we're going to put them indoors, it's filtered light is what it likes. It could grow to 6 inches tall and 8 inches wide per plant. Here's an interesting fact about this one and about another plant that I'll tell you, but they actively grow in the colder months. So right now it is summer and they are in their dormant state. So these are not growing, they're alive, but they are not multiplying cells to grow. At least that's what I read on the literature. So good plant to have, good texture to have, good combination succulent for any of the other succulents that you may have. Let me put this down. Next is another succulent that's native to South Africa, and it is this one. Get that one right over there. You see how many pups have been vigorously growing, actively and happily growing from the main branch. I like the texture. This is Haworthia Mirabilis Mundala from South Africa. They form chunky rosettes, clusters that grow actively and profusely, and this is a fine example of it. Look at that. They almost look like granite pillars that you see in, when they form like this, that you see in Iceland or in Ireland. Look at all of that. They have this little shelf on top, stubby, fleshy leaves with a horizontal shelf right on top. They are winter growers as well, same as for the sedum. So right now it is in its dormant state, which I highly doubt in the case of this Haworthia, because it just kept on growing. So it is not dormant at the moment. I'm confident in saying that. They like filtered light, very porous soil, and the soil medium, the growing medium that we will use later, would be the perfect growing medium for this. They can grow to 4 inches tall. Another type of succulent that requires thorough watering, and it just needs to be watered again when you know that the soil is dry. So this is Haworthia Mirabilis Mundala. Alrighty, and let me move this out of the way. Last but not the least is this very prominent, very imposing, out and among all the succulents that we have over here, only because it is taller than most, and it's got these nice spiky spear-like, sword-like structures for leaves, is, as many of you know, a Sansevieria, a snake plant, a mother-in-law's tongue plant, or a mini Sansevieria, the common name for it. It has multicolored small sword-shaped leaves, as I mentioned to you earlier. They grow well and will tolerate many growing conditions. So low maintenance, the kind of plant that we want for a nice little arrangement like this. Now, for this particular kind of Sansevieria, you can see that the combination of colors, they come in many colors and patterns. The one that I have right now has the dark stripe on top of a light green background, or maybe it's the other way around. You never know. It's probably a dark green background with a lighter green stripe. However way we want to consider it, it is very prehistoric looking again. It is robust and it is firm. You know that the plant is healthy when you get it from your grower, because it's not limp. These have very fibrous leaves that if you happen to catch a lemon or a bad one, they're really limpy and soft and soggy and all that. Healthy enough, this one, that it's now growing a pup. That little outgrowth right there is a baby plant, a baby Sansevieria, happily growing on the side of the spot. But I'll also get them out of the way. When you see them growing that, oh, look at this. I have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's quite a lot of individual little plants that are growing here already. Let me see if I can remove the pot. It is so pot bound right now, you guys, that I'm afraid I just have to be very, very careful with it. Let's see, because this right now, that it's full. The roots are coming up and coming out from the bottom of the pot. Hopefully my lighting is okay, but look, there it is. What a perfect example of pups growing from the mother plant, and they are healthy, but as they grow, they really just get compressed. Which, by the way, is what you want for Sansevieria. They grow really well and stay healthy when they are well compact. But because we want to put them in a larger growing condition, you'll see what I will do to maintain the compactness of the growing spot that we want for these to be in when we're ready to plant them. Isn't that amazing? And there you have it. 9 individual, low maintenance, interesting looking plants that we've collected so far that we want to put in one pot, and hopefully the end result would be a good one for us to be inspired by. It's all about just free reign. Whatever you like, however you like planting them, is your choice. That's your own personal take on it. But you want to know their requirements, the growing condition requirements for any plant that you have. And so in the next segment, I'll show you how I will plant them, and hopefully you like them. Bit drilled holes at the bottom of the bowl. I covered it with burlap, then filled it with potting soil. The potting soil is loose for proper drainage. I randomly placed white marble rocks in order to create a landscape. After that, it was just a matter of planting and placing all the succulents in order to create a good composition. Used a plastic spoon to create a planting hole for each succulent, and then I very carefully backfilled each hole, making sure that no dirt, no speck of soil goes in between and into the crevice of the succulent. And then with a clean paintbrush, I used it to wipe away and sweep away all the remaining soil. It was time for the potting soil to be covered with sand. This gives it a cleaner look and makes sure that every single speck of dirt doesn't spill over the container. After this, I used the paintbrush once more to sweep away any excess sand. And there you have it, guys. Another mantra that we have for our channel, turning something into something. A used bowl that's meant to go into the skip has been repurposed and used as a pot for all these succulents. What we will do moving forward with all these plants is to provide good watering more frequently during the summertime, where we will water them thoroughly, allow them to drain, and water them again maybe every 5 to 7 days. We have to check this in order for us to find out whether they are thoroughly dried before they get a second drink of water. I'll give you a timely update on these plants once they've been established. If you like this video and any of the other videos that we have in our growing collection on the channel, give it a thumbs up. Give us a shout out, let us know if you like it, share it with your friends, and don't forget to click on that subscribe button. We would love to have you on board and welcome you into the channel. This is Louie, and we'll see you back here in Acorn Hill.